Okay, I'll give an introduction here. This is John Walling, and I'm providing the Zoom, hosting the Zoom session, and the moderator is Nick Brenner, and we'll just go round robin and have introductions, starting with John, KF7AZP.
Hi, I'm John. I'm a newbie. I did get some hardware the last couple of days, so I'm going to set up a node and theoretically see if I've got a signal in my area. There are nodes within a mile or two, but I'm not even sure if I can hit them. I'm on a top of a hill, but there's trees around the area, so I may have no line of sight. So may have to do some bouncing off of something.
Okay, so this part is for introduction. So we'll get back to you, John, and we can delve into your particular problems. Okay, how about Rob? You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rob Sipes, Kilo Golf 7, Golf Tango Charlie, president of Mount Baker Amateur Radio Club in Bellingham. And just here and seeing what's going on and trying to keep up with Arden.
Okay, we'll do a little more delving into what you're up to. Next is Adam. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello. I'm Adam, Kilo Kilo 4, Golf Kilo Foxtrot, member of the Shoreline Auxiliary Communication Service group up here in Shoreline, just north of Seattle. Um, uh, Dabble in all the different things, so it's fun to jump around different ham modes and projects and things. So Arden's been a fun one of those. Yep.
Okay, now next is Nick, and he's going to be the moderator. And he will, after he does what he wants to do, he'll then ask each person to do their more in-depth report, where we can kind of do some back and forth and delve into what the technical issues. So Nick, the floor is yours.
Great. Yeah. So I'm Nick, KK7LZM. I'm the vice president of the West Seattle Amateur Radio Club. And normally, Ron Zuber, N4RDZ, hosts these meetings, but he's on a road trip. So here I am. But yeah, I guess, John, do you want to tell us a little more about what you're doing with Arden, if you've got any questions or things you're doing lately?
So far, no questions. The documentation on the Arden site actually seems um, pretty decent, so I don't think I'll have too much trouble. I've been playing with Linux for about 30 years and ham radio for about 15. Um, Comfortable with networking and so forth. Wireless networking over distances, that's a new thing. So that's kind of the next step. So uh, hopefully I'll be able to put it together. I may uh, probably ask for help in the next few days from somebody if I run into a stump or something. So
Yeah, and we've also got the club meeting coming up a week from Saturday. So that would be a great place to ask for some help.
cool.
Cool. Yeah. Rob, do you want to give an update?
Um, I really don't have anything to update. I've been kind of concentrating on other aspects of life. Uh, but yeah, I'm actually here to try to catch up with you guys and see what I've missed. And apparently I've missed a lot in the last few months. So I'm just here and don't really have much to add right now.
Cool. Adam, how about you?
Yeah. So I've gotten a couple of my nodes updated to the newest version. I've been messing around with the new UI. Um, and then I've also set up a virtualized environment, and I've been trying to get that working in a kind of specific configuration. Hitting one issue there where I'm not getting D2D traffic between my VM behind a hypervisor and a physical Arden node. Um, it might be down to the VLANing. VLAN 2, I understand, is for device-to-device traffic. I've checked that. It seems to be working. but that's my guess. Is there something going on there with the hypervisor? I'm passing through a NIC to a VM, so it might be something related to that. I've only been working on that like today. Yeah, so that's been one of the challenges. Also trying to pass through like GPS, which I got GPS working for time and location on a physical device, a MikroTik HAP, but I'm trying to get that working on this this VM as well. For some reason, the GPS is also not showing up. So just, I think it's maybe 75% VM related issues, with probably a little bit of Arden baked in there. I am finding challenges in the new UI where it was more intuitive in the older UI with some of these more advanced network configurations. It was a lot easier to see and understand the configuration that the node is in, and it's more difficult to do so with the new UI.
I haven't seen the new UI. Is that something that you can share right now, or is that difficult to pull up?
I can share it. Yeah, give me a moment.
And I just pasted into the chat there's so the new version of Arden firmware came out, and one of the big things that it includes is a totally updated user interface. I haven't seen it yet. I started watching the YouTube video that I just posted into the chat. And I mean, they seem quite proud of it. I haven't used it yet. I guess Adam says some things are a little trickier to do in it, which is sort of disappointing. But that's just how it is, I guess.
Did we lose Adam? I don't see him.
I think he
I
just
turned
dropped
my
off
video off. Yeah, I had to
Okay.
move to get connected. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet he's grabbing his node. So
After
So
he
yeah, I'm just filling it in while he sets up basically.
Yeah, no, and I keep talking. I would say, and I on the release page for the new version, they did call out. There's a few known gaps. There's a few things they know they want to work on. They have a roadmap established. So I think they were able to release an MVP of what they want, and that's enough to get most people covered. And I think the expectation is anyone that's doing anything more advanced will just continue using the old UI. So that's actually one thing that's really nice. If you update to the new version, you're not required to use the new UI. You can still continue to use the old UI. I'll show you what that looks like.
Oh, they have both installed at the same time?
They do have both installed at the same time.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, sorry
I was
to put
kind
you
of
on the
worried
spot
about
like
that.
this, Adam.
No,
I'm
you're
really
good.
curious about it, and I bet everyone else is too. So
Absolutely. Well, and actually, while I'm working on getting this pulled up, let's see. While I'm getting this pulled up, I wanted to share too. I'm interested in getting people updated to this new version, and it seems like a nice opportunity. So I set up a little event for this Saturday up here in North Seattle for anyone that wants to is welcome to come. It's a flashing party for Arden nodes. So you can bring a new node, we'll get it flashed from scratch, or you can bring an existing node, we'll get it updated. I thought it would be a fun opportunity to get different devices connected, see how big we can make the mesh, try out IP cameras or VoIP phones or whatever it may be. We have the whole 2.5 hours to kind of play with it as we like.
that's awesome. So Puget Mesh, I'm not familiar with that.
That is a website I set up like a week ago.
Okay.
And so I've been working with Cascadia Radio. They run a Discord server where they do a lot of ham radio related items. And one of those that they were half committing to and half picking up because they weren't sure how they wanted to handle it was Meshtastic, which is a separate non-ham radio specific. It's LoRa messaging thing. And anyway, so I talked with them if they would officially want to support Meshtastic on their forum as a place to come and discuss it. They ultimately decided because it's not tied to ham licenses, they weren't wanting to have that as part of their system. So I spun up PugetMesh.org for all things mesh in the Puget Sound region. So I'm including Arden in that, but by no means am I trying to take Arden away from anyone else. I'm happy to, if there's a place that Arden wants to be discussed, I'm happy to point there for that to be the discussion place. Just anything to help kind of connect people to Arden and to this type of meeting in the community is really my goal.
Do you know Christian Helfrich with
I do.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
And I had actually, I was able to message this with him. All right, I think it will let me share my screen now. It wouldn't
Because
let me
he's
load.
setting up.
You can,
Let's see.
Adam,
Oh,
Let's try
you
this.
that's
should be able
yeah.
to share
He's
now. I jumped in with a share before yours, so you should be free.
No worries. Can you see my screen yet?
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
see it.
Great.
That's funny. I just checked my mail and I see that 3 days ago Christian connected us on email. So that's great.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, and so this is my VM, and this is the new UI. I have it in dark mode. So that one of the things that's neat that I like about their UI is you can select the way that you want your UI to look. So you can use light mode or dark mode. They also have a colorblind mode, and you can choose for that to follow you around when you're navigating through other people's nodes. So that's a pretty nice feature,
Oh,
especially for
that's
people
great.
that are
Because
colorblind. Yeah.
we had here in our in the West Seattle group, we've got a bunch of people running Mesh, and apparently at one point somebody was running around all the nodes changing the theme,
Oh,
which
that's fun.
is not locked behind a password and is specific to that node. So everybody that
Sure.
visits it then sees that theme. There are a lot of complaints about that. So that's
Yeah.
cool that now it's a client side setting.
It is, and now you do have to choose for it to follow you. So by default, it doesn't, but it is nice that it's client side. So yeah, so out of the box, this is actually how the node will load. It will load with the old UI, and up here in the top right hand corner is a button that says New UI, and you just select that, and you're in the new UI. Some of these items take a few extra steps to get to. So let me actually. So this is not logged in. So this is what the screen looks like if you're just showing up as a non-authenticated user. You do have to click here and then click login in order to log in. And then on the left-hand side, you now have 3 different options, although is that not showing? Interesting. I don't see it on my screen share, but there should be a button down here at the bottom. Maybe that's just because it's virtualized. Interesting. I hadn't noticed. Oh, it's because I'm not logged in. That's what it is. Okay, so anyway, I'll be here on the left-hand side. We're on this information tab, I guess you could call it. And underneath that is this new um, mesh. Yeah, see what's on the local mesh. So this would show other nodes here if you just wanted to look at that information. You would also see the neighborhood nodes here where it currently says none. Again, I'm working on getting this connected. But yeah, this is the UI. Once you get logged in, you have this same screen, but you're able to click and update the items. So that's one of the things I'm glad they put a colorblind option in, because, or not colorblind, but color impaired option is it's not obvious until you hover over it what you're able to edit. So if I click on time, I now have a menu option for editing the time related items. Here's my network, right? Things like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I guess where are you located and what kind of connectivity are you getting?
Yeah, I'm currently located in Shoreline. I'm a member of the Shoreline ACS, and I don't have any nodes that I currently connect to. I'm interested in getting that set up here, even if it's not directly through my house. I'd love to get, honestly, I personally would love to get Seattle ACS, Shoreline ACS, NWMESH ACS, right? I'd love to get AREDN set up between like those groups and start getting ACSs connected to each other and peered. I think that's very possible, and that would be a neat milestone to accomplish at some point.
Yeah, no, that'd be super cool. Yeah,
There,
at the beginning of the year we had a long conversation in this group about what do we want to accomplish this year, and we had lots of great ideas, and I don't know that we actually made a ton of progress along those lines, but I think there's still a lot of desire to do
sure.
that.
I think there's a lot for me coming into this. I was familiar with the broadband hamnet stuff. I had a friend that loaned me a dish, and I was able to connect to HamWAN, so I actually can hit HamWAN from my house. I think it'd
Yeah.
be sweet to do an AREDN tunnel over HamWAN or whatever the proper terminology is for those things. But you know
Well,
what I'm saying?
a
Connect
bunch
AREDN
of
meshes over HamWAN. Yeah.
the AREDN nodes that we've put up, that our club, the West Seattle Amateur Radio Club,
Yep.
are co-located with HamWAN sites and
Very
have
cool.
a HamWAN uplink.
Very cool.
And so like they all have IP addresses, for instance, that
Yeah,
are publicly addressable on the internet, but go via HAMWAN to an AREDN node, and then you can see the whole AREDN mesh
that's
that
very
way.
cool.
Yeah, which is
Exactly.
super
Yeah,
cool.
it is. That's a neat opportunity we have in our space. And I know that Seattle Amateur Radio, sorry, Seattle ACS has a site up in Lake Forest Park. There's a water reservoir up there, and it's very high. And actually, I was looking at it. There's line of sight from Lake Forest Park to Renton at another park, and so you could absolutely have a line of sight link from across, from north to south on Lake Washington there. That'd be kind of cool. So there's some neat long distance links we could have for either HAMWAN or AREDN or both.
Yeah, I was actually just in Everett. There's a Ziply ISP. They have a site there, and we were installing a HAMWAN link there
Oh, okay.
to connect it to. It connects to the Snohomish Department of Emergency Management, which is part
Sure.
of the Puget Sound data ring.
Yes.
And then that Ziply site is providing another internet, a backup internet connection for HAMWAN.
That's really cool.
So, but yeah, it'd be super cool to get more connections here, and to, connect up to Shoreline. Let me see if I can pull up. Oh my good GeoJSON.
We have a pretty good group of folks, and we have a comms van, and so we have some neat resources at our disposal that work well for our own coverage and our own use. And I really think, yeah, if we had some other interoperable communication mechanisms between different ACSs, different groups already in place, that'd be really cool. And honestly, that's where I see AREDN fits in so well, is not so much as a already set up backbone that's there and established, but a reactive network, because you could have multiple agencies show up with their AREDN node and they're automatically connected to each other. And if they're just somewhat familiar with how to use that to me is super powerful. So I think that's one use case I think that would be a fun field day or demo day or something. Again, yeah, this Saturday, I'm going to have a few nodes set up there. I have a couple old VoIP phones, so I'll have that set up. Hopefully some people show up and we'll flash some equipment, but if nothing else, we'll have some equipment to demo. I'm still trying to get this hypervisor working. I've gotten a lot set up here, so it's actually pretty fun to play with, but it'd be neat to have it actually be able to connect to another AREDN node.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So that's Saturday, October 12th, 3 p.m. at the Seattle Public Library, the Broadview branch. Is that right?
That's right. That's North Seattle. So that's like in the Green Lake area.
Okay. We should,
and it's a large room. I think the room can support like 75, 100 people.
Yeah, let me throw that on our club calendar so that other people
I do know it's
about
last minute. I do know, it's maybe not an ideal time. We could certainly set up another one, or if you set up another one, I can make sure I share it with the few people I know, and yeah, keep going from there.
So this is the
Nick, I was going to put this on the Northwest Mesh, but I can also put it on the W7AW groups.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And sorry, you're going to put it in groups IO. Yeah. I'm adding it to the club calendar right now.
Yeah, I'll put it on two groups IO, the Northwest Mesh and the W7AW groups IO. So it'll be in two places.
Great. Broadview branch. All right.
And I did spin up a Discord server for Puget Mesh. There's a Meshtastic section on there, and there is an AREDN section on there. Most of the traffic is absolutely on the Meshtastic section. But just wanted to share that's another place to communicate, if that seems to work well. I know different people prefer different ways to communicate, and that makes sense.
So sorry, you said you set up a Discord server for this? Great. Yeah. And that's the same one that's linked from pugetmesh.org?
That's correct. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, nice. And there's Christian. In fact, actually, you got a ton of people already that joined the server.
Yep. It's only about a week old, so it's doing well.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
I'm actually one of the things I'm setting up for this virtualization. I don't think I'll have it ready for this weekend. Is a VM that lets you talk from Meshtastic to Arden, so that if you're on the Arden network, you could send messages to people on Meshtastic through Arden, and potentially vice versa. But that's kind of a fun integration as well.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of fun. That's great. At the West Seattle Amateur Radio Club, we were going to do one of our club meetings focused on mesh technologies in general, including Meshtastic. And we have a member who is really into Meshtastic. In fact, we got a couple of members that are doing stuff with Meshtastic, and we're trying to get them to come speak.
Cool.
But that's been very challenging to organize for lots of stupid reasons. Just, hard to get schedules to work. But I think we'd still would like to do one of our club meetings about Arden, Meshtastic, HamWAN, and sort of all of these different things and how they're different and how they can interoperate. And as a club, I think we'd like to do more with Arden. In fact, that's one of the things that I talk about with Jonathan Search, our president. He's always like, "Oh, we got to do more with Arden. Like, what can we do? Like, what are the things that we can do to make it more useful, to make it sexier, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera."
Yep. And just to show very briefly, because it's not on the topic of Arden, these are a lot the nodes that are sharing their position right now live, or have been online in the last couple of days around the Seattle area for Meshtastic. There's a lot of people out there using it. Yep.
Yeah, I've got a couple of Meshtastic nodes in little solar powered ones in Windows that they
Very
occasionally get enough battery to turn on.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's super neat. Do you know the Seattle Emergency Hubs? Are you familiar with them?
I can't say I do.
Okay, so they are sort of partnering with Seattle ACS, and they are spread all across Seattle. There's a few dozen of them. Each of them have a little local hub captain. And what they do is they activate in times of emergency to provide, mostly their information is what they're doing, is they're collecting information and needs from the neighborhood. They're connecting that with the whole city infrastructure, and then they're sharing back information about, where can you get water, where can you get electricity, et cetera, et cetera.
It sounds like CERT. Is it CERT, or is it adjacent?
I don't know if they're an
adjacent?
official CERT organization, but they're super well organized. They're super plugged into the city. And one of the main organizers is a member of the club. And so the ACS and the West Seattle Amateur Radio Club have a good relationship with them and provide amateur radio communications.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly that is like VHF, UHF over repeaters and WinLink. But it could also be Arden. As you're pointing out, it would be great if what we could do is have one of the things at the hubs, it could even be in each hub has a box at the location, at the neighborhood location. And so when they activate, they just go to the box and they pull out all the equipment that they need, right? And it could be that in that box is a little Arden node, and then they can immediately turn it on. There are enough of them close enough together that they would all be able, they could talk to each other, they could be networked immediately. And then they would have TCP/IP in addition to having WinLink, in addition to having voice.
Yeah, that'd be a fun demo to set up and show.
That'd be super cool. So if you are interested in this stuff, I mean, there's a lot of good ideas here, right? It's the execution, I think, is probably the problem that we've had making it happen. But so I don't know what your appetite is for all of that stuff, but if you're looking for more engagement, I can definitely help you with that. There's a lot of people that are interested in that.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great to learn more about that. That'd be awesome. Cool.
Well, cool. Yeah, this is super cool. And you're running this inside of a virtual machine?
Yeah, so this has been fun. So this is a small one of those mini PCs. So I have, it's well, I can't pull it in front of the camera without unplugging it, but it's 3 inches by 3 inches by 1.5 inches thick. mini PC, 2 NICs. So I have one network card that's for the WAN, one network card that's for the LAN. But what this is actually set up as is this is actually a Proxmox server, and it's going to warn because it's a self-signed cert, so don't worry about that. So this is actually a Proxmox server, which is a hypervisor. And on this one box, I'm running AREDN. Wrong. Yeah, that's wrong one. I'm running AREDN. I'm running OpenWRT. I'm running OpenWebRx. I'm running Mattermost, a media server, Nextcloud, an actual local desktop. So one of the things you could do with this is you could RDP, or you could even just through Spice or like a VNC viewer, you could through AREDN, you could have an RDP session essentially to a VM desktop, where then you could log into actual HTTPS sites and things that you need to authenticate with through AREDN without having to do the HTTPS over AREDN. I've also set up a SOCKS server so that the SOCKS server will do all the HTTPS authentication, and then over AREDN, it's just HTTP. So that's another one that allows you, if someone on the mesh has internet access, then you're able to leverage that without kind of violating some of these protocols and things that we need to adhere to.
Is your mini PC? It looks a little bit something like this.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is I think this was $120 brand new, right? And it runs off 12 volts and it pulls maybe 10 watts.
Yeah, this one I think was about 200, and then it's I wouldn't say twin, it's older brother. Was probably about 500, and that's what I'm running Proxmox on with a bunch of different services and whatnot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have some larger nodes at home, but this one's intended to be in my AREDN box. So this is meant to be an AREDN node to have all these services. So like, for example, right, OpenWebRx, I have an SDR plugged into this. I'm passing through the USB port, and you could sit here and listen to repeaters. You can decode, POXAG, you could listen to airplane traffic and get the ADSB data, right? And that's all through AREDN. So that's pretty cool. I thought that was kind of a neat feature.
That's awesome. I haven't done that yet, but yeah, that's actually one of the routes for God. These RTL, SDR, dongles, and that's the Raspberry Pi just didn't have enough processing power for a Go kit that I wanted. Even though these suck up a little bit more juice than I wanted, but you got to kind of do a trade-off there. But this one runs on 12 volts. The other one is like 17 or 18 whatever volts, which doesn't work very well for a Go box.
And I know we're getting off topic again, but OpenWebRx especially OpenWebRx Plus specifically, is pretty amazing. So this is all data that I've received from my SDRs only, right? So this is all, I'll turn that off.
Wow.
This is all APRS data, and I can click on these. So I can click on these. Here's the APRS data, but then I'm also getting AIS data from ships. So here's all the ship data, and I'm able to track those. I can pull up ADSB, but I actually have a dedicated ADSB box that's not posting its data in here. But then it also does, I'll do by mode. Here's all the decoding it's doing of digital modes it's receiving. Oh, look, there's a weather balloon. Like, that's pretty cool.
And just to be clear, you are receiving that APRS signal to your radio at your location.
Yes.
And then you're serving that on a device that's connected to an AREDN node. Yes. So theoretically, everything that we're seeing right now is something that you could roll out in
offline,
an emergency without any internet, without any electric. I mean, you'd have a battery or something, but without any grid power or anything like that.
That's right. Now, there's one gotcha. So this is my home OpenWebRx. So this one does have internet traffic. This one's hooked to my better antennas. But like, here's an FT8 signal I got from Chile, right? 19 minutes ago. And that is just received directly via my antenna, my SDR. I'm working on getting the full offline capabilities of this available on AREDN without an internet connection. And the only things I'm really having to fill the gaps in there are setting up my own the OpenStreetMap server. So you can have your own OpenStreetMap server. So even without the internet today, we can still go back we could still go back here, and we could still listen to the signals, decode them, and still listen to and see everything here. It just wouldn't be nicely, shown up on a map. That's all.
Hmm.
But yes, all
So-
of that can be done on AREDN, even and non-HTTPS. So I could have it on my node, and you could be, 4 or 5 hops away, and you'd be able to log in and see this data as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I always struggle with when I talk about AREDN or want to motivate AREDN, is it's like, what does AREDN do? It's like, well, AREDN gives you a, infrastructure.
Yeah,
So like what it does is sort of kind of nothing unless you put something on it. And the thing you can put on it is like stuff that goes on the internet, right? So
that's right.
It's really cool to see all of the kit that you've put together, because it motivates that, right? You're using AREDN as the infrastructure to drive all of these other services. That's
It's
super
pretty
cool.
fun. Thanks. It's been fun to play around with. And I do like the kind of like use case scenarios, because they can spawn off into larger projects. They can stay as is, right? And kind of the same thing goes true for Meshtastic as well. But yeah, no, AREDN's great. I appreciate, especially last time I was in trying any of this before this year, was like the broadband hamnet stuff and some of the earlier Batman stuff. And like that stuff was fun and it worked, but it did take a lot more involvement. So AREDN's a great foundation to build on top of, for sure.
Yeah.
Mind if I ask how many SDR receivers do you have hooked up to this system of yours? At least
Yeah,
4, right?
so the let's see, the one that I have on my AREDN node, I only have one, just as a demo. Again, this could be scaled up. You could have a bigger micro mini PC with more processing power, because all of that decoding I'm on my main OpenWebRX system, I'm doing in the background. So I'm doing all of that like real time background. And so I want to say 4 SDRs for that. That's right. And in fact, if I click up here, it'll let me do that.
Which ones are they? Are they just the RTL SDR dongles, or do you use something a little bit more robust?
Yeah, so for dedicated, so I have a dedicated RTL SDR for ADS, or sorry, for APRS. So a dedicated for APRS. I have a dedicated for AIS. And then, well, here it's over here on the right-hand side. I have to move you out of the way. There we go. So here we go. So I have a RTL SDR for 2 meters, which is doing the APRS on 2 meters. I have this dedicated RTL SDR for AIS. And then I have RSPDS, which is the SDR Play radio. I have one of those, which I hop around with because it has such wide bandwidth. So actually, I only have 3 connected to this box doing all of that. I do also have an RX888, which is like a 16-bit SDR, but it does it in a not nice way. It really hammers your USB 3 bus, and just you need like 8 cores and lots of RAM just to process this, because of the way they handle it. It doesn't do any device processing. So it's pretty dirty to your PC.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't use that one as much, but it's awesome. It will do the entire HF band at one time. So if you plug it into a PC and actually run like SDR Play with their plugins, you could do the entire HF band all simultaneously in one waterfall. By the way, while we're talking, we can just sit here and listen to the APRS coming in. We can do a demo on OpenWebRX too another time. It's OpenWebRX is super cool. If you ever want to see here, so this is the kind of thing we'd be able to do without the internet. Is you'd still be able to sit here and listen to it, decode, and watch it show up here. And this does FT8, JS8 call, ACARS, POCSAG. It does a little bit of everything. It'll even do SSTV. So we can go over here and see if yeah, here's some SSTV files it's received in the background.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. If you can't tell, I'm a huge OpenWebRX Plus fan. So anyway, when you were talking about the AI stuff for the decoding, that's where my head went. We should absolutely build that into OpenWebRX, because that'd be a really cool feature to have there.
Oh, yeah.
But for now, I'm stuck on trying to get this AREDN node to talk to my other AREDN, my physical, my HAP over an Ethernet port. And for whatever reason, they're not seeing each other. So I'm going to keep pecking away at that one after this call.
That's super cool. Yeah, so that's Saturday. That should be a really interesting event.
If
Very
nothing else,
cool.
it'll be me sitting in a room poking around with Arden nodes.
Yeah. I'm gonna see a bunch of folks that some often they'll join this Zoom call every month that I mean they're not here tonight. Unfortunately, this is super interesting, but I'm gonna see them tomorrow and I'll let them know about the event on Saturday.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, they would think that this is super cool. Uh very, very cool, yeah. Well, neat. Um John, uh, Walling, did you want to share anything?
I don't have anything concerning Arden, but I just want to check with Adam. I'm going to post this your your party in a couple of places, and in case somebody needs a contact, what should they do?
Yeah, so at the bottom of that image, that's the invitation kind of the invitation image that has all the information on it. There's an
Yeah.
email address there. So
Okay.
I just put it as arden@pugetmesh.org. That's
Okay.
a good one. There's also a link on pugetmesh.org to the Discord or I just set up like an Instagram just for capturing some kind of pictures and medias whenever there are events. That would be another way to send me a message. Any of that works, or yeah, those are probably the best.
Okay. So it'll be Arden at Puget Mesh, and the other one would be on Discord.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Got it.
Super cool. Yeah, I don't have anything to share other than just the new GUI. I'm glad that Adam did a demo of it because I haven't seen it, but I wanted to let people know about it if they hadn't seen it already. Um, yeah, I think it'd be great to figure out how to get more Arden nodes up that are actually talking together. I think one of the things that, and maybe Adam, you're here, or other folks can chime in about this is, but one of the challenges that we've been having is just we put up so just recently we put up a new node on Providence Mount St. Vincent. So it's got a great location, high up in the air, great visibility, clear shot to Beacon Hill, which is kind of far away, I think, for consumer grade Wi-Fi, but it still has perfect line of sight there. And yet we can't ever get any connectivity. All of the links that we see are very poor. And, we debate in a lot about why that is. Is it because it's too far? Is it because there's other, a lot of the sites have trees blocking it and things like that? Or is there like something wrong with the hardware? That's something we talked a lot about. Or maybe some software. We spent a lot of time monkeying with link quality management features. Um, but I don't know ultimately. And basically where that landed was we've got this node on Providence Mount St. Vincent that can't see anybody. And we've got a node on Beacon Hill that doesn't have any neighbors except the EOC. But that's an internet tunnel that it has to the Emergency Operations Center downtown. So though at least those two nodes, but really a lot of the nodes that ACS has put up, a lot of the nodes that the club has put up are all just islands, and we just are having a ton of trouble getting any good RF links. And I don't know if other folks have thoughts about that or ideas to things to try or anything like that, but I thought I'd put that out there.
What hardware is being used?
It's a MikroTik router board, and it has a big panel antenna, 120-degree sector antenna.
And forgive me, I don't know the distances between those two locations. About how far is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Providence, Mount St. Vincent. Sorry, I'm just pulling up a map right now. Um, Beacon Hill? Like, maybe 3 miles.
Oh, that's not far at all.
Yeah. And I mean, it's got perfect line of sight. And Beacon Hill has I think it has the same thing. It either has a MikroTik router board based, radio and an omnidirectional antenna, or it has a Ubiquiti M2 rocket. Um, and so I mean, it seems like they should be able to connect just fine, but they can see each other, but they fail to create a connection. Do you know what I mean, Adam, when I say that?
Yeah.
Like you can see, right? You can see the node listed, but it just
Yep.
hasn't made that an active link.
Yep. Yeah, I've had that. I've had that with even just listing the IP, but not being able to list the actual node information.
Right. That's like the story of 90% of all of the connections that we can see in the nodes that we have. And that's a little frustrating, right? And
Yeah.
I just, I don't know how to proceed at that point.
Have you tried to test both ends of that with a closer node, like a portable node?
Yeah, so I know for sure if I'm sitting on the roof of Providence, Mount St. Vincent, and I'm sitting, 100 feet from that panel antenna with a little tiny one of those God, what is it? The GLI
Seven,
nets. Those
Yeah.
little, yeah.
750.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can totally connect just fine.
Okay.
It sounds like a diagnostic, one of those like TP-Link or even the Ubiquiti, the dishes, but the TP-Links I know are a bit more portable. Just something with a little higher gain on the receiving side, just to try to get an alternate radio and an alternate something with
Mhm.
higher gain to receive. That would be a nice way to rule out the
Yeah,
transmitting radio.
right.
Another thing that comes to mind for me, because I've been doing it around here a little bit, is doing a site survey with like an SDR to see how busy that frequency is. It might just be something that's noisy, that's then
Yeah.
preventing it from communicating on one side or the other or both.
Yeah. Those are good ideas. Um, yeah, and so another thing, question or thought to put out there, as long as we're here and you seem like you got lots of great ideas. We've talked a lot about how important channel planning is. And like basically we had someone who's done tons of stuff with Arden, and his opinion was basically like, oh yeah, if you are only using one channel and you have more than 3 or 4 nodes, it's never going to work. That was his sort of take on it. That's just way too much traffic. Even 3 or 4 nodes is way too much traffic for one channel. If you want to have 3 or 4 nodes, you really got to be running 2 different channels, and you've got to have like, one pair of nodes talking on one channel. You need a second radio that is connected with a device-to-device link at one of those locations in order to talk to the third radio. Do you think that there's like, does that make sense?
Sorry, I was mute. That seems a little too specific, like a little. That doesn't seem like there's enough information.
Okay.
To make that conclusion, but maybe there's something that they were speaking around, or there was some more context there. Like maybe there was something around, maintaining some kind of a link quality or maintaining some kind of a throughput, quality of service. Or I mean, just from a connectivity point, that doesn't make any sense, because you should be able to connect. I mean, just think of your home. You could have dozens of devices connect to one access point at home, even on
Right.
an older access point, pre-MIMO and like older access points, and that would work. And so I think it depends a bit on the use case, but I do think it makes
Sure.
sense from a a planning perspective, especially, I mean, think about the way repeaters work, right? You have a repeater and then they just use a secondary frequency for backhauls from the repeaters. So
Totally.
yeah, that makes sense. Have a HAP and then have a, you know, a second radio on a different frequency, potentially as your backhaul to connect, you know, your site to another site, and then for the local traffic at that site, you know, don't use what the backhaul is using, right? Like that makes sense. I get that. I get that. That could make a lot of sense.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. That kind of like hub and spoke or sort of like
Absolutely.
a backbone. That makes a lot of sense. Right
I'm sure
now,
there's lessons learned. Sorry, I'm sure there's lessons learned from other installations that we might be able to benefit from. Like I know there's like Yakima, I believe it was, and there's a few other areas that have larger Arden installations. So that seems like that's free data that we could probably even contact them and see what's worked for them and their lessons learned, and go with that.
yeah. I mean, all of the nodes that I have seen and that I've, been part of events where we're installing, everything is on 2.4 gigahertz channel -1. Everything. So like the Providence Mount St. Vincent node is that way, the Beacon Hill node is that way. The client nodes in the area are all that way. The other nodes, the other like big sites that the club, the West Seattle Amateur Radio Club has put up are all that way.
And that
Um,
you said it's -1, not -2. Is that right?
I I don't know actually now that I'm saying this
Okay.
out loud.
If
Um,
it's 10 megahertz -1, channel -1, then you are going to overlap into the consumer band. So then you would have a lot of interference.
yeah, let me pull up. It's all -2, sorry.
Okay. Yep. That's why I wanted to check.
Yeah,
Then that should be okay. Again, there might be something interfering, but that wouldn't be my expectation.
right. Yeah, so this just for fun. Let me see. Of course. Right. Can you see my Arden? And was it sharing properly?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the Beacon Hill node. And this is the connection over ham WAN, by the way, right? So this node, the site at Beacon Hill has both a ham WAN, it's a ham WAN site as well as an Arden site, and they're connected together locally. And so I'm accessing the Beacon Hill Arden node over ham WAN.
Super cool.
And then this is what the mesh looks like, right? And so it can see all of these nodes. And at some point it could see these nodes. And it doesn't have Providence Mount St. Vincent right now. I've seen Providence Mount St. Vincent here, but never active, always idle, right? And I assume that it's idle here either because the connection is not strong enough, basically. Do you think that that's right?
I don't, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
My experience is I've seen idle with a node that's just sitting there that's literally idle. There's no traffic because there's nothing on the other end that's being accessed and no data going back and forth, frequently.
That's interesting. Okay.
Maybe that's the benefit of me kind of living in an island up here is that's what, when I connect to my own nodes and then there's just nothing going on, I will see that. But
So
again,
you
that may be just me being naive with my interpretation of that meaning.
Right. So you think that idle doesn't necessarily, well, in fact, actually, we can just ask
Do
help.
you have any active services running on those?
This is what it's, no, I don't know on those nodes. And on Beacon Hill doesn't have any services. This is the definition of what it claims it says, right? Or what it means, right? And that's why I think idle basically means for some reason it's decided not to add that as a routable link. Do you think I'm reading that wrong?
I don't know.
Okay.
This is interesting. Thanks for exposing that. Now I'm thinking you have a large number of nodes. I don't. So I know on my end, the routing table is not full.
Right.
But I'm wondering if there's a potential to hit over, to overfill the routing table, and then my guess is then you would just drop the ones that you don't use very often. But again, I'm really
Yeah,
interpreting a
maybe.
lot right now.
Yeah. I mean, so it could certainly, right? So it has a tunnel connection. I mean, but that would be weird, right? If because it has a tunnel connection, it then says, "Oh, let me dump all these RF nodes," because I'm sure these RF nodes would love, right? These people would love to be part of the mesh,
Yeah.
and the fact that we have a tunnel connection to the EOC, they would love to be part of that larger mesh, right? Um, and yeah, so. And certainly in my experience, these are not routable. Any of these nodes are not totally, you can't, if you are connected only to Beacon, you cannot connect to any of these nodes. That's been my experience.
And
Yeah,
I do see it just shows the IP and not the node name. So that was
Sure.
what I also saw was on a poor connection. Yeah.
Yes, right. I have seen it resolve. Like, I mean, certainly I know these two sites, right? So this is this is Maple Leaf. In fact, I bet I can pull that up. Let's see, it'll be wacsarden.mpl maybe .hamwan.net. Let's see if that works. Maple Leaf? I don't know. I'm sorry. We're doing live debugging here. I'm sure folks don't appreciate that. Oops. Spell it right. No. Yeah, maybe there isn't maybe Maple Leaf doesn't have a connection that way. But anyways, yeah. So this is kind of the current state of, and I guess, and as far as I know, this is the entire Seattle AREDNMESH.
Yeah.
Like what we're looking at there's a bunch of different little islands in the Seattle AREDNMESH, and a ton of them have connections, internet tunnel to the Seattle EOC. Which, by the way, if you want a tunnel to the EOC, so that you also can be part of this this mesh that way, I'm sure that we can put that together. I always email Carl Leon, who Christian knows certainly, and if you're not already in touch with Carl, he has access to the Seattle EOC machine and can add tunnel connections.
Very cool. Very cool. And I checked mine, and I stand corrected. It did not go idle after sitting here with nothing going across it for a while. So if nothing else, this was a learning session for me. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, I mean, in my mind, like, this is the biggest practical challenge that we face here in Seattle with AREDN, is just like, we just don't have enough quality connections to have a real mesh.
Yeah.
It's just a ton of violence, like yourself,
what's the
right?
power level? Yeah. What's the power level set on these? You said these were like the MikroTik busy boxes, or yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's maxed out. It doesn't say on this page, does it?
As long as it's not set at a lower.
No, I certainly not at the Providence Mount St. Vincent site.
Okay.
That one I'm sure is at its max setting, and I'm pretty sure that this beacon site is. And I think that's the default anyways, and I don't think anybody has gone through and set those to lower values. So it's just really surprising that the beacon Providence Mount St. Vincent link doesn't work, basically. And that it's not like that's a one-off thing, right? Like, there's a ton of different sites that should have line of sight, and they don't have a good connection. So
if nothing else, if nothing else, I think it might just be that the antennas are too low a gain for how broad they are.
Sure.
Right. And so maybe with some of these, trying to get a point to point with a high gain, even like a dish or somewhat parabolic dish antenna, could be helpful, just to establish that it can work. Right. That rules out kind of everything else.
So you're sort of saying, like, this 3 mile or this 3.3 mile link here, really, we shouldn't expect a sector antenna to be able to make that connection. that we should really be thinking about that as a much tighter beam width link?
I think we could rule that out if I don't know what accessibility is to these sites, but with a higher gain and a directional antenna, a more directional antenna at either or both ends of this, I think that would tell us a lot. But this is again where maybe we can go look online and look at some of these other meshes and
Yeah.
see what they're using and what type of ranges they're getting, and use that information.
Well, cool. Yeah, maybe we can talk about this more on Saturday. But
That'd be fun.
I appreciate all of your your thoughts here. And sorry everyone else if I totally just commandeered this whole session to talk about this, but I personally, if we're serious about making Arden work, like we have to overcome this challenge. But great.
Yep.
I want to share a screen. This is I'm putting together an announcement here, and it will go to NWMESH club members and to W7AW. And it's a Arden flashing party, and I put it in plain text so people can copy paste it. But the same information appears in the graphic image, and then I attach the information on the firmware update. So put it all in one place. So is there anything else I should add or delete or remove from this announcement?
This looks amazing. Thanks, John.
Okay. Yeah, I think it covers the basis. I didn't mention you by name, but I could if that would be helpful.
Totally your call. If you'd like to, you're welcome to. You're welcome to use my call, my name, whatever you'd like.
Well, I can use your name. I just won't give them your personal email because I don't have it. But okay, I could just say you're the organized by.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that they know there's a human being. It's not a AI system that's doing this. Unless you.
Oh yeah.
Unless you.
Yeah. And Adam, is this do you have more like a mission or goal or organization behind this, or is this just like you're just starting this out and you just want to get more people onto Arden? Is there more that you want to say about that?
Sure. I think at this point, I want to understand what's already established a little bit more than I do today, because last thing I want to do is step on someone's toes. And so really, it's just connecting people to Arden and getting people involved with it and having more opportunities to do things like that's why I loved this opportunity with the UI update as a great example excuse to get people together to connect nodes and also do the flashing for either new devices or updating existing devices. But yeah, between that and Meshtastic, and then we can go beyond that even with other mesh technologies in the Puget area. That's really my ultimate goal, is just to kind of push that forward. And so again, I tried to make this part of the Cascadia Radio. They have a fairly large Discord server, but they have good reasons for wanting to stick to ham radio only. They also had a digital section, which really was a catch-all for Arden, ham WAN, and all digital modes. So that was one I also was talking to them about. So that was another reason that I tried to kind of pull out Arden into this, is just so that there is a place specifically to talk about Arden on the Discord, or again, if there's already an existing group or such as this group, right? Like I'm not trying to duplicate anything. That I think that would really dilute the space, and that would take away from the goal of trying to get everyone connected and kind of together. So for now, it's just, hey, host this one event from an Arden perspective, and then make some connections, and we'll go from there with whatever makes sense. I'm happy to point towards another resource if there is one for Arden. I'm happy to take on more there if there's a need to. So kind of go from there.
A question, Adam. Are you going to cover Meshtastic at your party?
I'll definitely have a few nodes there, but it will certainly not be the focus. But yeah, if for example, there's not really anything else going on Arden specific, I'll have a couple nodes there, and I'm be absolutely more than happy to talk about it.
Okay, what I was trying to figure out is if I should include that in the announcement.
No, let's leave it off for this one, because
Okay.
I'll certainly be setting up. That was one of the things we wanted to do, is set up a similar meeting like this, but very Meshtastic specific, because I know there's a lot of people that aren't in the ham radio community that are into Meshtastic, and so making sure I am able to meet with them, and then also I think there's a lot of good opportunities to mesh everyone together. Those will certainly happen as well.
Okay. Well, we're getting close to an hour, so we are a little over an hour. So do you want to wrap it up, Nick?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I think, for me at least, this has been a super interesting and valuable conversation. I really appreciate everybody showing up. And Adam especially, really thanks for thanks. Sorry to put you on the spot like that. I think but you shared a lot of really useful information to the group. This is actually, a recording. I think I'm gonna definitely tell people that they should think about watching.
Very cool.
There's a lot of good information in this. And your event, I think, sounds like fantastic. Definitely
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. But
Okay, I'm going to shut down the recording at this time. This is the NWMESH Zoom meeting for October the 10th, and it is now 8:32 p.m. And we're now shutting down the recorder.